This is Greystone Park. It's one of the most sought after low density suburbs right here in the city of Harare. It's there in the northern part of Harare, close to Borodale and Vainona. And fun fact, just a few decades ago, it was restricted for Black people. So you may be wondering why I'm talking about this particular neighborhood. Well, just a few weeks ago, I think 2 to 3 weeks ago, I made this video. And in the comment section of this video, there was a comment that grabbed my attention. This one. I don't know if it's a he or she that wrote this comment, but I'm just going to read it as it is, and I'm going to put it on the screen so that you see it. He or she said, "I once visited a respected author in Greystone Park. At the time, there was a community issue about homeowners, which were the Black employers, objecting to their 7 children attending the same schools as their own. I don't remember his exact view, but I still feel a pang of regret that I did not challenge this. But then again, I was just a child." You can feel that although the person that wrote this comment was very young then, they still feel like something is off. This does not mean that everyone in that particular neighborhood was against the children of the workers attending the same schools with the children of the homeowners, but there was certainly a group of people that were against it. These are Black people that are trying to enact something that was fought for more than 14 years. The Liberation War was to end all forms of segregation, but apparently not class segregation. If you really think about the kind of mindset that is behind all this, it's quite disturbing. You believe that your child cannot be in the same class with your worker's child just because this one is of a lower class than you. Do you understand how insane that is? This is not because of academics. This is not because of behavior. This is only because of who the parents of that child is. It is simply because of what the parents do for a living. It is all because of how much the parents earn. I want you to think about this. What level of contempt is required for you to feel that way against people that have not done anything to you? Do you understand the amount of disgust that you have to feel towards a child simply because their parent works a lower class job? This is not just snobbery. Snobbery is laughing at someone's accent. This is something way, way darker. And that is exactly what we're going to be talking about in today's video. My name is Edlene and I welcome you to my Yap session. If you're interested in the difficult conversations that we have on this channel, please click the subscribe button and the bell so that you can be alerted every single time I upload a video. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to try and define this word, because we don't want to stray. We want to be as accurate as possible. Classism is prejudice, discrimination, or differential treatment based on a person's social class. It involves systematic, institutional, or interpersonal behaviors and beliefs that assign value or advantages to people based on factors like wealth, income, education, occupation, and social status. So it typically favors upper classes at the expense of the lower classes. So the first tier of classism is individual or interpersonal classism. This is when an individual like me makes fun of someone or segregates against someone or holds negative stereotypes against people that come from a lower socioeconomic class than me. This is something like poor people are lazy. This is something like, oh, they all smell. It is my individual negative stereotype against people that come from less of a class than mine. The second tier is institutional classism. This is much more pronounced than individual classism because this one involves policies, regulations, laws, and practices that create unequal opportunities for people that come from different socioeconomic classes. This can be something like the underfunding of public schools in poorer communities, solely based on the fact that it's in a poorer neighborhood. The third tier is cultural classism. In this one, society's dominant belief is that people that come from wealthy families or are wealthy themselves or are super educated are superior, and people that are the opposite of that are inferior. This is usually evidenced by the stereotypes that are given to poor people. There's misconceptions that they're lazy, misconceptions that they don't bath properly, misconceptions that they're less intelligent, misconceptions that they're less valuable and they deserve less respect. By listening to the intro alone, you can tell that classism is a literal cousin of racism. The only difference is that the people that are practicing it are usually the same as you. I'm so sorry that in this entire video, I'm going to keep using specific words, especially socio-economic. The reason why I'm mentioning it like this is because it is not completely social and it is not completely economical. It's like a combination of the two. You see, classism is not just about money. It's not just about how much you're worth. It is not just about how much you're earning. It is also about prestige. It is also about social honor. It's also about your respectability. It's also about your status. And lastly, it's about your proximity to power, your access to power. As we continue this conversation, I want you to keep this hierarchy in your mind. This is the stratification of our society. At the bottom are the lower class. Secondly, is the working class. Thirdly is the lower middle class. Fourthly is the upper middle class. Then the last one is the upper middle class. It can be separated into lower upper class and upper class. Like I said previously, your level on the social hierarchy is not merely determined by the amount of money that you earn. It is determined by three things: the amount of money you have, your status, and your proximity to power. So when I mention status, I'm talking about your respectability, your connections, your social honor, your prestige, the name that you have. It plays a very big role into exactly where you are stationed on the hierarchy. For example, a drug dealer can be high on class. He can be considered to be up there because of his income levels, but when it comes to status, he is down below. So all these things work simultaneously to determine how someone is valued in society. In a healthy society, this is how it works. You are stationed when all these three factors are included. But when it comes to Zimbabwe, we have collapsed all these three into one, which is money. In our Zimbabwean social system, a person that has money can buy status and can buy power. The money is the biggest determinant of where you are stationed on the social hierarchy. And as long as someone has money, they have power, they have status, which means that they can generate even more money and they are considered to be more valuable in society. So in the Zimbabwean context, it's quite unique because the power and the status don't matter as much as the money. So a person that has money is more valuable and a person that has less money is less valuable. You don't just see this in the business world. You don't just see this in the classroom. You don't just see this in the church. You see this even in the family. Parents even begin to see their children in a hierarchy. The child that has more money is considered to be more important, is considered to be more valuable, is considered to be kinder, is considered to be more considerate without acknowledgement of the fact that they just literally have more resources. So the problem is not just institutional. The problem starts in the home. So the next question is, if we're seeing this almost in every sphere of our society, where did it come from? The answer is actually colonial. I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, we just blame everything on colonialism, but it's actually true. The settlers did not just steal land in the year 1890, okay? They built an administrative caste system that lasted for 90 years. 90 years, people were segregated based on skin color. In fact, the Land Apportionment Act of 1890 gave the best agricultural land to only 5% of our population, and those people were white. And then there was the Industrial Conciliation Act of 1934, which legally determined which jobs Africans could get and which jobs Europeans could get. And then there was a segregated school system. I mean, all of us know that there were Group A, Group B, and Group C schools. The Group A schools were specifically for white children. And then the B and the C were for Black Africans, and they were severely underfunded. They were underfunded by design so that African children could be disadvantaged. Zimbabweans lived with this hierarchy for 90 years. They believed that they were inferior to white settlers. And because of this, there was a solidification of class hierarchy in this country. Africans believed that they were inferior and Europeans believed that they were superior. Mind you, this was not just on racial lines, okay? This was also on manual versus intellectual labor. It was also a divide between the township and the suburb. It was also a divide between vernacular and English. So it's an intersection of a lot of factors. So you were not just inferior because you were Black and your overlord was white. You were inferior because you did the manual jobs and they did the intellectual jobs. You were inferior because you lived in the township and they lived in the suburb. You were inferior because you could not speak proper English and they could speak proper English. So this tells you that language also plays a big role into how people people are segregated in society. 1980, we took our independence from the white settlers, but did we change the social hierarchy? The white suburbs became the wealthy suburbs. The dual society that Rhodesia had designed had just changed from race to money. If you had money, you lived as the white people lived. If you had no money, you lived just as the Black Africans had lived all these 90 years. I think by now you've seen in our society that when a lot of people are fighting against a certain hierarchy or a certain disadvantage in society, they are not necessarily fighting the system. They are fighting their position in the system. The moment that they climb higher on that particular hierarchy, they are just going to enforce exactly what people that used to dominate them enforce. This is when people start to inflict the same level of segregation and discrimination that used to be inflicted on them. They start inflicting it on their maid, they start inflicting it on their garden boy, they start inflicting it on people that are poor, on vendors. They start to see these people as literally unintelligent and lazy. I don't think that a lot of Zimbabweans have actually thought about the mindset or the mentality behind colonialism. I mean, we hate colonialism, but have we investigated the mentality behind colonialism? What drove these people to segregate Black Africans? It is because they believed that these people were inherently inferior. And when I say inherently inferior, I'm talking about what these people had achieved. They had written language, they had organized religion, they had built cities, they had built towns, they had trade networks, they had built technology, they had all these things that they believed made them superior to Black people. This is the same mindset that a lot of Black elite have. Just because they've been able to amass an amount of wealth, they've been able to build these, connections, they've been able to build mansions, buy expensive cars, have access to power. They start looking at those people that are in the lower class or the working class as inferior because they haven't achieved as much as they've achieved in their own lives. Number two, the reason why classicism is so evident and so pronounced, especially in our country, is because of what we've been through economically. It takes a lot. It takes a lot. It takes a whole lot for someone to start at the bottom and to be at the top in this country. It is extremely difficult to escape poverty in a country. We're talking about a country that has more than 80% formal unemployment. And what most people do not realize is that globally, it is rare for people to jump classes. Upward mobility on this particular hierarchy is extremely rare. It's actually an exception. Most people remain in their social class because of the opportunities that are found in different classes. So because we don't have much of institutional classism in this country, it's very easy for people to feel like our country has a lot of meritocracy and you can just jump from being from the lower class to being in the upper class. And it is also easy for people in the upper class to look at people that don't have much and say, you people are easy. Why can't you just climb the ladder and come where we are? It becomes a justification why these people are inferior and why these people are superior. So because it's very difficult for a person to establish themselves in this country, this has caused some of these people that have worked so hard and have been able to build stuff, have been able to, to change their lives, to frown upon people that have not done the same. And also, when people come from the bottom, they're usually very unforgiving because they're experiencing the new luxuries of life, the new privileges of life, things that they never had access to before. So they start to feel like maybe they're better than the people that they left in the lower class. So because we went through an economic crisis, hyperinflationary period, people stopped looking at themselves as community. They started looking at each other as competition. Who is driving the better car? Who is building a better house? Who has a stand and who does not have a stand? Who has a nicer Brazilian wig? Who has the most beautiful woman? People stopped living life as a community and they began to live life as competitors. So everyone is trying to establish that they're better than the next one, which has actually created a new problem in our society, the fake life. Everyone wants to be seen as successful. This is exactly why there's a lot of big men syndrome, especially in former colonies. A person would rather buy a Mercedes Benz that they cannot afford. A person would rather buy an iPhone 17 that they don't even need at all. A person would rather starve and buy that Brazilian wig. A person would rather sleep on the floor while they take nice pictures going out. Like I said before, everything that is social starts in the family. And this is a social economic problem. So it obviously starts in the family. I want you to imagine in your mind, just imagine a family at a gathering, at a funeral, at a maroro, at a ceremony. Just think about who really has power at those gatherings. Is it the people that are the oldest? Is it the people that are the wisest? Is it people that are the most hardworking? Or is it the person that has a Range Rover, a Mercedes Benz, or has a high-paying job? It is the brother that lives in the diaspora that gets more questions from relatives. How is diaspora? How is the family? How are you doing these days? People show more concern for people that are living in the diaspora, and they show very little concern for people that are living locally, especially if they're poorer. This subconsciously teaches us when we're growing up in such family dynamics that a person is only as valuable as their wallet. We stop considering other things that are so important, like morality, like wisdom, like knowledge. We start only thinking about, are they able to help me financially? You start to see this even when it comes to the language that the mothers use. You know, when their child is of a higher status or earns a lot of money, they mention their child by occupation. My child is a doctor, my child is an engineer, my child is a businessman, he has a lot of money. But when it's time to talk about the average or the poor or the working class child that they have, they just start to say, oh, he's working, he's trying. There is a dismissive tone that comes out when they're talking about their child that does not have a lot of money. So what is actually happening here has got a term, and it's called conditional regard. This actually causes the child to learn from a very young age that the love that is in this family is not unconditional. It is performance-based, it is income-based, and it is status-based in their own families. And this becomes a generational thing because they'll also inflict the same on their children, and it literally becomes a culture. So this cycle of treating children that have money better than children that don't have money, it is something that is now very generational, and is something that is deeply entrenched in our social system. After the family, now consider the church. As a person that used to be in the church myself, someone that used to preach, I have first-hand evidence and I can testify to this. If in your church this is not there, good for you. But I would like to think that almost everyone that is watching this video has seen this in the church. In the average Zimbabwean church, when someone that is wealthy, someone that is of a higher status, someone that is well connected comes to church, they are given preferential treatment. And because of the boom of the whole prosperity gospel, many people actually believe in 2026 that if a person is rich, then they're blessed, they're anointed, they have the anointing of money. They can ignore all the corruption around that person. They can ignore all the connections. They can even ignore like their wealthy background and simply say, oh, this person is rich because they're blessed. So because of this mentality, it causes people to view positively people that have money and to view negatively people that do not have money. For me, the prosperity church, especially the charismatic church and the Pentecostal church, has deeply entrenched social hierarchy in our communities because people now genuinely believe that because someone is rich, they know what you don't know, they have blessings that you don't have, they have access to God that you don't have. So this economic hierarchy stops being just economic hierarchy. It becomes spiritual hierarchy. They get the best seats in church. They get to see the pastor more often. They get the positions in church. If you're poor in the modern church, you're not going to have a say in how anything is run in that particular church. You can also see this in the language that we use. Have you ever seen how grown men, elderly men in their 60s and their 70s, will start calling a 25-year-old, a 30-year-old boss simply because they have more money? Do you understand how absurd it is for a man with gray hair to call a young boy just because he has a Range Rover Mukoma? This is something that most of us have witnessed in our society. Because come to think of it, in our Shona, Ndebele, and multiple tribe culture here in our country, age is a foundational basis for respect. You're supposed to honor and respect your elders. But now it's vice versa. Just because someone has more money than you, in our country now, money beats age. And income has completely crushed seniority. It is because majority of our people are poor and they now have to depend on people that are above them. They just want the crumbs that fall from the tables of these rich people. How can we allow in 2026 that the only thing that demands respect is money? Not wisdom, not age, not character, just money. And which uncle made the first introduction to the good job? Everyone knows that in Zimbabwe, you don't just get a job because you're competent. You get a job because you're connected. So what can we do about this? Because I refuse to end this video with despair. We actually need to talk about the solutions to this problem that we have. I will only mention things that you and I can do. I want to mention things that we can do. I don't want to just delegate the responsibility to the government. These are things that we can do because this is a socio-economic problem, which means it starts in our society. And this is something that we, the people, Zimbabweans, can change because all of us, to an extent, have enforced and reinforced this system. The first thing is we need to audit ourselves. We need to hold ourselves accountable. We need to look at the way that we address people that are considered beneath us. We need to watch our tone when we're talking to our domestic workers. We need to watch our tone when we're talking to construction workers. Are you training your children to talk to domestic workers with respect, to talk to vendors with respect, talk to their teachers with respect, to talk to their coaches with respect? Are these children segregating people based on their income levels or their perceived status? The way your children talk to a vendor should be the same way they talk to a doctor. They should start seeing humanity as humanity. And one of those things that we need to do is to make sure that we accept that people speak different languages. We need to accept that majority of our people have never spoken English in their lives and they are going to break it. We should not shame people for having different accents. We should not shame people for speaking broken English. We need to stop measuring people merely based on their wallet. We need to start valuing knowledge. We need to start valuing intelligence. We need to start valuing expertise. We need to start valuing age. There's so many other factors that we can look at. We can benefit from people, even those people that we consider to have less money than us. Number 3, please make sure that you engage as much as possible in public services or shared communities or shared spaces. For example, public transport, public hospitals, public schools. To an extent, it helps you and your child to know that these people are not beneath you when you engage with them. Sometimes the reason why you discriminate against people that are of a lower class or of a lower income level than you is because you don't spend enough time with them. The divide itself creates a negative stereotype. When your children grow up closed off without knowing their poor cousins, without being in places where some of these people are, they grow up very snobbish. They start to look down on people that have less than a quarter of what they have. They stop seeing all the environmental factors that are causing these people to behave in a certain way, and they just start believing that they're just inferior. So my prescription is spend as much time as possible with people that you think are lazier than you. Spend as much time as possible with people that you think are more vulgar than you, people who you think are more immoral than you, people that are of the lower class, people that do menial jobs, people that do, the less important jobs in society. It will make you more empathetic and it will help you understand just how valuable these people are to our society and to our economy. Although society has stratified people based on their income, their status, and their influence and power, you start to realize that all human beings are important and their input in our economy is just as important as the people we consider high class. My name is Edlyn and thank you so much for watching my video. See you in the next one. Ciao.